welcome to another episode of the Easy Cage Show. I am Darth Easy,
And I am Rainy Cage.
and this is episode 151 of the Easy Cage Show. Guys, I hope you're having a very good Sunday afternoon for another episode of the Easy Cage. This is the perfect way to start your week. So this weekend,
Right.
James Bond movie just came out, No Time to Die. You would think we would do top 10 James Bond movies, but due to Randy Cage refusing to watch any movie made before 2004, we cannot do James Bond because then we would only have a top 5.
That's not true. I've seen the Pierce Brosnan and James Bond movies. Those are 90s.
Yeah, so we're not doing that list. But James Bond has a lot of cool movie villains. From Goldfinger to Silver to Blofeld. It's a lot of cool movie villains. So this gives us a perfect opportunity to talk about a list I've always wanted to do is top 10 movie villains. There are a lot of bad guys in all kinds of movies, and this narrows it down to villains in all movies. So it is such a big list. And I'm looking forward to talking about these bad guys with you. What categorizes a good villain in your mind? What categorizes a good villain in my mind, your mind, and everybody's mind? And then for the internet or whoever watches this, which is probably nobody, to rip us apart of how wrong we are, and that's always fun.
That's the good part about not having an audience.
So, Ray Cage, was this a hard list to create?
Yeah, because there was just so many, and I'm sure I'm missing some because I literally made this list 30 minutes ago. I just did my best and used other people's lists for suggestions and kind of come up with my own. But yeah, I mean, I got 20 here, and I'm sure there's another 50 that
I'm sure there is.
I'm not even thinking about. So, matter of fact, you were talking about James Bond. I don't have a single James Bond.
I'll be honest with you, I don't either. So, I mean, I only have one honorable mention, but if I was going to throw one, I would throw on Silver from Skyfall. I think he's a very cool villain. Though I know James Bond villains, which is fine. But let's get right into it. So, guys, once me and Rank Cage have said topic, we'll go our separate ways and compile our own separate top 10s. He'll do his 10 through 8. I'll do my 10 through 8. He'll do his 7 through 6. I'll do my 7 through 6. Then we trade one apiece. Once we have compiled our own separate top 10s, we will create the show between the two of us. And I started first last time, so you go first this time.
All right. My number 10, I'm going with Norman Stansfield. I bet Big Easy Darth Easy doesn't even know who that is.
What movie is that from?
It's from Leon, the Professional. Which
okay. That was. It was in my original honorable mentions, but I cut that honorable mention out. Yeah. So it's better than putting Gary Oldman from The Fifth Element in there. So
also he's a good villain, but in a dumb way. He's not really a good villain, actually.
I like him. I mean, he's very cartoonish at times, and the only really thing I remember him in the movie is when one guy goes, "Everyone." That's literally the only thing I remember about Gary Oldman in this movie.
I like Gary Oldman, and you just made me think of one that I need to add to my honorable mentions, but I'll do that here in a minute. Anyways, Norman Stansfield is his character's name. Gary Oldman in Leon the Professional. He's a dirty cop, and I've got a lot of dirty cop villains, not in this list particularly, but just in my mind as good villains. I don't know, dirty cops make good villains. And he's got a lot of ticks too, which is kind of cool. That's kind of a villain 101 trick they do in movies. He takes some kind of pills, and the way he takes it, it's so creepy and weird. And just his kind of, I don't know, just the way he is in this movie, it's kind of like, it's like an unsettling feeling for him. And I like him in the movie I love this movie. I made you watch it a few years ago.
It's one of the few movies from when we were forcing each other to watch movies that I actually liked.
Yeah, it's a good movie, and he's a good villain in it. And Gary Oldman, he's just great sometimes. I know
Yeah,
sometimes he's not great, but
right.
he's kind of gets typecast as villains sometimes in movies. I'm trying to think of one. The Hitman's Bodyguard, I think, was one recently
Yeah, he's
where
not
he was.
great in that. He just has
Yeah,
he just has a Russian or like a Eastern European accent.
yeah.
And he's like, "Who are you to take to judge me? I'm the bad guy here." And you're just like, "Come on, man. This is Winston Churchill. You can do better than this."
But yeah, that's my number 10. My
Okay.
number 9, I went with Gollum. I know a lot of
Okay,
people.
that's a punt.
Oh, sweet. All right. I didn't think for a million years you'd have him in there. All
No,
right.
no, no, no. I'll get to it.
All right. And my number 8 is I don't have my numbers on my list, so I'm gonna forget. Uh, is Jack Torrance from The Shining.
Okay, yeah, I never finished the movie, so
A lot of villains, it's the characters losing their mind, kind of insanity makes them villains. This one's he's almost kind of like haunted to insanity. But everybody knows The Shining except for you, apparently.
yeah. I mean, I
You
know
think
it.
you
I
know it.
mean,
Yeah.
here's Johnny.
They get locked up in a cabin on a mountain, and he goes kind of crazy and tries to murder his whole family. And it's pretty crazy and awesome. And Jack Nicholson plays the character awesome. And yeah, he just kind of goes insane and is chasing after him with an axe, and it's pretty badass. So that's my 10 through 8.
Okay, so interesting list so far. So before I get started, I just wanted to go through where my mind went when I went with movie villain. So my idea for a movie villain is one: was he a good bad guy to the hero? Two, does he win somehow in the movies? Like, does he get the upper hand on the villains and on the heroes? And does he and can he walk away like, yeah, he did pretty good, like going to watch a football or basketball game and you lose, but were they able to give him a good fight? That's where I went with the villain, and so that's where a lot of my list came into uh creating the list. And then also just evil, bad people that just are terrible people, and you do not want to ever meet this person in real life. So my number 10, I was struggling with my number 10 because I was wanting to put a character from one of my favorite movies, Braveheart, in there. But I decided not to put him in there because I was like, well, he does kind of create the problems that he is in if he didn't do it. So I went with an iconic fantasy movie villain. My number 10 is He Who Shall Not Be Named, Lord Voldemort from the Harry Potter franchise.
Figured you put him in here, obviously.
Yeah, it was hard. I was close to. I had so many villains I wanted to put at the number 10 spot, but I mean, just on the sheer fact of Lord Voldemort, I mean, he creates a name where the entire Wizarding world is afraid to speak his name. And so on that, even when he's away for like 13, 14 years, and you're like, he's not even alive anymore, people are still scared to say the name Voldemort. And so, I mean, so on that thing alone, and Ralph Fiennes is incredible in the Harry Potter movies as Lord Voldemort. I think he just does such a great character, very intimidating and very powerful. And I just think he's I think he's an iconic movie villain and really great. I think Voldemort's a great villain, and I like him more in the books. This is one of those things where I've read the books before I watched the movies, and the Voldemort, like especially in Half-Blood Prince, when you actually see the backstory of Tom Riddle and why he does what he does, and you don't really get that in the movie version of Half-Blood Prince. But as someone who read the books and then watched the movie, I still get that. So yeah, I have to throw Voldemort at 10, and I think he deserves to be there.
I like it.
Okay, my number 9 is a is a villain. I wasn't even thinking as a villain, but you know what? He is a villain, and that is Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life, the classic Christmas movie with Jimmy Stewart. Because the whole idea, the thing that's scary about Mr. Potter is there are characters like this guy in the real world right now. He's a business tycoon in this city of forget what the city's called in It's a Wonderful Life. But without Jimmy Stewart's character and without his family defending the honor of this town, and you see it whenever Jimmy Stewart's character wishes he had never been born, the whole town is devastated by Mr. Potter, and how there's this there's no hope, and there's no things at all. So without Jimmy Stewart's heroicness in the movie, you don't see that. And Mr. Potter just kind of devastates this town for his own financial good. So there are definitely people like Mr. Potter in the real world, and that's what makes Mr. Potter a very scary and true villain, because it kind of hits at home. And It's a Wonderful Life is such a great movie. It's a great Christmas movie. I know you've never seen it. It's one you should definitely watch. It's one that makes me cry every Christmas. It's one of those Christmas traditions that I watch every year. So It's a Wonderful Life. Mr. Potter definitely deserves to be on this list.
Okay.
Okay, my number 8. It's the only female I could pick in my villain list, and this person definitely wins at the end of the film. So I went with Amy Dunn from Gone Girl.
Yeah, that's a punt.
Okay, that's my 10 to 8.
Look at us having commonalities I didn't think we would have. All right, my number 7 is Hans Gruber.
Okay, that's my number 6.
Okay. Yeah, freaking Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman. We just rewatched Die Hards here recently, so he was fresh in my mind. And one of the takeaways from that first Die Hard is one, how awesome that movie is, but the villain, freaking Alan Rickman, just kills it as the villain in that film. He's a really smart villain, and I liked him, and yeah, Hans Gruber. What do you got to say?
I mean, Hans Gruber is such a cool villain because, first off, he makes it look like to the FBI that he's the terrorist, and so whenever he's calling his demands, he's telling he's telling all these people he should free, and like the one guy just looks at him when he says one day, he's like, I don't know, I saw it on TV, and so he's making it look like they're bigger than they are, but really they're just thieves. They're trying to steal the money or the gold or whatever it was in Die Hard. And also, like, whenever whenever he's acting like a hostage, and when he's acting like a Devil American, he's like, no, please, don't shoot me, please, no. So in that sense, it's cool. And then whenever they're having their shootout with John McClane, and he saw that he had no shoes on, and he said, shoot the glass. If we can't beat him, we're going to weaken him. So on a smart end, he's thinking all kinds of moves ahead. So, and also Alan Rickman, I mean, great movie actor, being his first actual movie, and he just knocked it out of the park with Die Hard. So yeah, I mean, I had to put Hans Gruber because he's just such an iconic villain. And the reason why he's lower than what he is because he loses in the end. But he does get the edge over John McClane many times.
Oh, yeah. I would say several times he does. All right. My number 6, I wanted to go with some animated villain. You know,
I knew it. I'm like, he's going to have an animated villain.
I had to
go ahead.
I struggled with picking who I wanted, but I just went with Scar. Jeremy Irons, from The Lion King, just because there's a lot of family aspects in there, and he's kind of smart of the way he does things. He takes it, he waits for the perfect opportunity, he manipulates, and he's just a very memorable villain, especially from my childhood. And
all hail the king.
Yeah. And I just really like Jeremy Irons' role in that movie too. He was one of the ones they recast in the live action one.
Yeah, Chichi Ejiofor voice.
Yeah. He has one of the best songs in the original movie. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We've lost Darth Easy's video feed. This may become a problem. I don't know when he'll figure it out. Cool. Well, yeah, Scar's pretty awesome. And I'm just going to fill the time with a poem about you guys almost got a poem, but have to save that for the next time Darth Easy's camera crashes.
Okay, so yeah,
But
Scar. I
yeah,
mean,
Scar,
yeah,
Jeremy Irons, he kills it as the villain in this movie. Definitely manipulates little
Simba.
dang it, Simba. Yeah, I'm not fully awake yet this morning. Um, and yeah, I like this movie and his portrayal. As
Yeah, I mean, Scar. I mean, when you look at it, he is he's Shakespeare. It's a Shakespearean villain. He's a jealous uncle who wants to take out the king, and so he can become king. And then he has to. He doesn't want to kill his son because or he doesn't want to kill his nephew, but he doesn't really care if he dies or not because he just doesn't want to be the one that does it. Because if he's the one that kills he has to make it look like it was an accident that Mufasa died, and then whenever he tells Simba, his nephew, he says, run as fast as you can and never come back." And then the hyenas come up. He's like, "Yeah, get whatever you want. I don't care. I'm gonna go become king." So I enjoy Scar. The original, I like the original better than the live action. I think that's a really secret. But I did think Chichi H4 did a very good job as Scar. But Jeremy Irons is for me the Scar that I go to. Just like with all these other Disney movies, I always go for the animation over the live action.
They ruined his song too in the live action movie.
Be prepared.
I like his song in the animation.
Yeah, but that's the song. That's the Lion King song. I don't really remember that much.
I like it.
Okay, so
that's my
7 through 6.
7 through 6, yeah.
All right, my number 7 is one of my favorite movie villains, and he's only in the movie for like 12, 13, 14 minutes of the movie, but you feel his influence throughout the entire movie, and we don't even know what his real name is. So my number 7 is John Doe from the movie 7.
Oh yeah, I saw this on a bunch of people's lists. I think it's just been so long since I've seen 7. I was just like, man, I don't even have it in my honorable mentions, but makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a cool villain because, just like I said at the beginning, does the villain kind of win in the end? Yes, because he manipulates Brad Pitt's character into killing him at the end of the movie by saying, "You become Raph," and he said whenever he cut Gwyneth Paltrow's head into the box, and the iconic scene of Brad Pitt going, "What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?" And then when he finds out that, oh, you didn't know she was pregnant, and he just kills him, and then you're just like, damn, he just like, it's like that. It's whenever Morgan Freeman looks in the box and sees how much John Doe has outplayed everyone in this film, and it's just such an incredible film. And Kevin Spacey is so good in there. There's another Kevin Spacey movie I was really close to putting in there, and it was The Usual Suspects as Kaiser Sose.
Bought that on Blu-ray. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so he's very good because you don't even know he's really the villain, and so overall, yeah, Kevin Spacey does such an incredible job as a bad guy, as someone who's a terrible human being. So probably great. It's a role he was probably born to play. So yeah, and my 6 was Hans Gruber. So what's your number 5?
All right. My number 5 is the T-1000, played by Robert Patrick in Terminator 2. I know a lot of people are like, the first Terminator, he's the one. But maybe it's because he's kind of redeemed in the second movie, and I know it's a different Terminator and but I don't know. I just don't find him very villainous. I guess if you never saw Terminator 2 or any of the other Terminators, you would be like, man, that was an awesome villain. But the freaking T-1000 in Terminator 2 scared the bejesus out of me when I was a
Yeah.
kid. I mean, he is one badass Terminator. I mean, shape shifting, freaking changing his appearance, his freaking like way he could turn his arms into weapons and shit. And
Yeah.
you thought they had him at the end of the movie when they freeze him and break him into a million little pieces. He just freaking combines back together, and he just like he didn't care kids anything. I mean, he was a creepy freaking Terminator, and yeah,
Yeah, he's a great villain. It's in my honorable mentions. It was that was another one that was hard to cut my list, but he is kind of the reason why he didn't make it into my higher list is because he's kind of just following the programming and he's just going from course A to course. He's just following. He doesn't have any originality to him. But I will say, Terminator 2 and the liquid metal still holds up to today. Like the CGI is still incredibly well done. So, and for a movie to be now 20 years old or 30 years old.
30 now, yeah.
Yeah, so 30 years old, and it still looks good. That is an impressive thing. We talked about Terminator 2 so many times on this list, and I'm glad we could talk about it again because it's such a cool villain. I'm glad you put it on your list.
All right, that was my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is another Hans on this list. And I'm going with Hans Landa from Inglourious Basterds. Christoph Waltz is the Nazi strategist. So, no on your list?
Another one where I saw it on a bunch of people's lists. I bought Inglourious Basterds. I've only seen it one time. And it's one of my least favorite whatchamacallit movies. Whatever the director's name is. I can't remember now.
Quentin Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino movies. It's one of my least favorite Quentin Tarantino movies. But I need to rewatch it. And I do remember him being especially villainous. I remember this one coffee house scene. Or I think it's a coffee house. I'm not really 100% sure. But
he's not in that scene. So.
Yeah.
No. But you're thinking of the farm scene.
Maybe.
The opening. So the reason why it's on my list, I mean, the first opening scene of the film, he's him and his soldiers there. He's known as the Jew Hunter. He's because he can get into the mind of the enemy, the Jews. So he comes into this French house where he basically Sherlock Holmes his way, deducts that the Jews that he's looking for are hiding underneath the floorboard of the house. But then he speaks like 3 different languages. Like first off, he's talking French. Then they move to English. The people under the floorboard can't understand English, so he's telling him exactly what's about to happen, and then they go back to French. So they're like, "Oh yeah, everything's fine," while the soldiers come in and shoots out the floorboard. But then at the end of the movie, he figures out what Brad Pitt and the bastards are doing. He could have stopped them from destroying the Nazis and stopping the entire plan from happening. But he decides not to, thinking, I'm going to get a deal. So he's a villain not just for us as for the Allies. He's also a villain for the Nazis. So he turns on them to get the best deal. That's what a true villain really does, to get the best deal out of all situations. And Christoph Waltz is such incredible actor and acted in this film. I mean, between this and Django Unchained, 2 movies which he won Oscars for, I love this movie, and I love he is the reason why I love this movie so much. Is I could just watch this character just go through scenes and talking to characters throughout the entire film, and I am totally enjoying it. So yeah, I love Hans Landa. This had to be so high on my list because of him.
All right. Another movie I need to rewatch for sure. Because I may end up liking it better than I originally did. My number 4 is a punt from earlier, Amy Dune. Rosamund Pike. Uh, I guess that's my only female on the list. Yeah, but she really Rosamund Pike blew me away in this movie, and it's just just you don't mess with no crazy women. That's the moral of this story. She is full on batshit, and it's, excuse my language for our younger audience members. Um, but she is so good in the role, and you are just I was terrified of her for the entire movie because of
Yeah,
what.
I mean, like I love how the movie opens where you're like, oh, poor little Amy. I forget what the characters, the book series that her parents wrote. The amazing Amy.
Yeah.
And you're making it look like she basically sets this narrative where Ben Affleck was a piece of crap, abused the relationship, took money from the account, had this sweet cool gaming shed, but she's secretly making it look like he was an abusive husband, and he's like, fuck him. I am going to destroy him. And even if I have to die in the end, like her whole plan was her body to end up at the bottom of a lake somewhere where they can find her. So her whole plan was to die, but then she sees Ben Affleck and faking it, and she's like, I'm gonna go back to him. And then and then they end up together again, and you just feel bad for the guy, but he has no choice because she has his child, and he has to protect the child, otherwise, because the woman always wins in most of these divorces, and so he would never be able to prove anything in this thing, and so that's what makes her such a great villains, because once again we see this a lot where some parents might stay with the person they don't really love to protect the child they're with. So it's kind of like the Mr. Potter on my list, because it's a real villain. Like, it may not so crazy, but there are crazy women out there, and
Yeah.
and not, I mean, crazy guys too. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, let's not just throw it at one gender. There are crazy people out there who are not fit to be parents. So I really enjoy Gone Girl, and
Really, this
Rosamund
whole
Pike was
movie
great in this movie.
yeah. I mean, she pretty much wins this movie. I like.
Yeah.
There's no really uh, good feelings after this movie. You're like, oh,
No.
yeah. But yeah, she's awesome in the movie.
Okay, my number 4 was a punt from earlier, and that is Gollum from Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. That's the one I'm going with for his because Gollum, he has his plan. He wants the precious back. He wants to feel compared, my precious, and so he is planning to lead the hobbits to Shelob's lab, so Shelob can take care of him, and he can just get the ring from the corpses, but then he also sets up Sam. He makes it look like Sam is the liar, and that he turns Frodo against Sam, the best man a Hobbit could ask for, and then the end of the movie, he gets the ring back. He gets the precious, and he dies with the ring. So in the end, like, Gollum's the hero and the villain. Like, he bites Frodo's, and whenever he gets that ring, he's like, precious. And Andy Serkis in this movie really evolved what motion capture is, and he just looks so real for the movie. And I love Gollum, and I love Andy Serkis in this movie. And when he dies with the ring in Mount Doom, with the ring being destroyed, he saved Middle Earth because Frodo's like, the ring is mine. He puts the ring on, and he was getting ready to escape, but Shelob bites the finger off, gets the ring, and Frodo pushes Gollum down the mountain, and the ring can really make anybody go crazy. So I really enjoyed Gollum in this film.
Another one where some type of force is causing someone to go pretty much insane.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, freaking Andy Serkis, phenomenal in this role. And yeah, the motion capture is great. I even loved him in The Hobbit when he
Yeah,
comes back for the role. It's just a really cool character, and yeah, everything you said. I mean, he just goes crazy. Got his precious, and but yeah, really, he's smart about the way he does things. You wouldn't think. I mean, he almost seems like a what's like a uh, what's his name in episode one. Jar
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 Binks.
Binks.
Yeah, yeah, at first you're like, but really he's way smarter than Jar Jar Binks. So, yeah, it's a good character.
Yeah, and like even like in Two Towers, whenever like you realize where the mental stability of Gaul whenever he's talking to himself in the water. He said, Master is my friend. You don't have no friends. Nobody likes you. It's just like, God, man, you got some problems. Okay, that's my number four.
All right, my number four is
You mean
the great Heath
oh,
Ledger's Joker.
you mean number three?
Or my number three. Sorry, yeah, told you I
Oh,
was gonna
okay,
mess my numbers
okay,
up.
yeah, that's my number two.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, still one of the greatest comic book villains ever. Best Joker ever. One of the greatest comic book movies ever. So of course he's going to make the list. Heath Ledger. He's all about watching the world burn, but he does it in such a smart way. He sets up freaking Batman in so many different ways, and he's just a great villain all around. His portrayal by Heath Ledger is fantastic. The things he does in the Dark Knight are great, and I just it's a badass villain. Of course, he's gonna make my list.
Okay, so the reason why it's so high on is first off, it's Joker, it's a Heath Ledger, it's Joker,
Yep.
and but what he does, like just killing really just a couple people, he turns the White Knight, Harvey Dent. I believe in Harvey Dent, every man into Two Face, into a villain where he did so much good, but all the stuff is completely unraveled, and so the Joker basically forces Batman and James Gordon to make Batman the bad guy to keep the legacy of Harvey Dent alive. Because if they don't, all these criminals that they all locked up, they're going to be right back on the street. So this is for the greater good. And so the Joker did all of this, and just such a cool villain. Some iconic lines. He said, like whenever he has the one guy, he says like, "My father was a drinker." And then he cuts. He's like, "What?" So I have these scars. So it's like, and then he cuts the one guy up, and then he has Rachel, and then it's like, you want to know how I got these scars? And then he cuts up another story. You're like, there's so much bullshit here. I love it. I mean, that's what makes
You want to
his
see a magic trick?
character. I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. Ah, it's gone. And yeah, so Heath Ledger's Joker, and here we go. I just this movie is great. Love the Dark Knight, love the Joker, and I'm sure Heath Ledger would have been back for the Dark Knight Rises if he hadn't died. And he did win the Oscar for this movie. And I love Joker. I mean, such an iconic movie villain, and somebody who grew up watching Batman the animated series, and to see the Joker on the screen, like Jack Nicholson got close with the Batman, uh, but Heath Ledger really brought the Joker to life, and we saw what uh, Joaquin Phoenix did with the
Yeah, I was about to
Joker.
say Walking Phoenix does a good job too, but to me, it's still no Heath Ledger.
Right.
Yeah.
So
All
yeah,
right,
that's
that's my
my
number
number.
two.
All right, my number three is Thanos from Avengers: Infinity War.
That's my number two.
Okay, we just flip flopped our our placement of the characters. I mean, for me, Thanos is the closest thing to Darth Vader we've ever had in a movie. The bad guy wins in the end. But what they did with Avengers: Infinity War by having all these heroes, you make it's really more of Thanos' movie. He's the hero in his own eyes. He thinks he's the good guy. He thinks he is doing what's right for the galaxy because his world was destroyed.
Bring balance
And
to the galaxy.
yeah, he's bringing balance. He's bringing balance to the galaxy, and it's just great. And in that moment on Normir, I think that's the planet, with him and Gamora, when he realizes he has to kill Gamora, and the tear just comes from the eye, and Gamora's like, it's like, you're crying. Why are you crying? You never loved anything. And then Red Skull's like, that tear isn't for you himself. It's for you. And then she's like, oh shit. It's just such a cool moment and Josh Brolin just does incredible work as Thanos. And the snap, and even in Endgame, he's a cool villain where he's like he realizes I didn't go far enough. I left y'all a glimmer of hope, and I should not have done that. I'm just going to remake the galaxy in my image, basically. So I like it better in Infinity War than I do Endgame. Because it's more of his movie. Endgame is more of the Avengers movie. But Infinity War is completely Thanos' movie. So, yeah, that's why it was my number 2.
Yeah, in Infinity War, you know, I don't want to be sound like this guy, but he's a little bit more relatable. And sometimes you're like, wow, you know, maybe he's not wrong with Thanos. In the Endgame, he goes full villain and just like, I'm just gonna do what I want. And but he's badass, and you're right. I still. The Infinity War Endgame movies are just freaking amazing. And Thanos is such a cool villain. And yeah, that moment when he has to kill his daughter, who she's like, "You didn't love me. This isn't love." It's a freaking amazing moment. And just good stuff. And they did such a good job of giving me the backstory. It'd be such a way for them to ruin this movie is not give us any of that backstory about what he does and why he. And they do, so it makes him very relatable villain. And like you said, he thinks he's the good guy, really, until Endgame. Then he's like, okay, I don't care anymore. Yeah, I'm gonna make it the way I want it. But good stuff.
I think he still cares. I think it's just more of he said, unless I take out these obstacles, my goals are never going to be achieved. So I have to go this extra mile. So
he goes to the point where he's going to pick and choose now. Before it was like, it's random. It's he. Oh, I forget what he says. He's like, it's kind of like it's. I can't remember. But then, towards the end game, he's just like, now he becomes like he's God basically, and he's gonna pick and choose who lives or dies.
Yeah,
that's when.
All right, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is Darth Vader.
Okay, yeah, that's my number 1 as well.
That's figured.
And you said we only have 2 movies in common.
Yeah. We have more commonalities than I thought. Heck yeah, Darth Vader, Star Wars. They got the best villain ever. Vader is like, the minute you see him, you're like, holy shit, this guy means business.
Right.
And then even a lot of people like to poo-poo on the prequels and, Anakin Skywalker this fall and all that good stuff. I like it. I think it gives Vader even more of a cool story. And Darth Vader's like the best villain ever.
Okay, so I'm gonna go a little more into it. So Darth Vader for me, for me, it's like in Star Wars, he's a cool character. He looks cool and everything when he's choking out rebels. But in the original Star Wars, he has a leash from Grand Moff Tarkin. He said when he's choking out the with the Admiral or the Moff, and he said enough, Lord Vader. He said as you wish. But in Empire Strikes Back, he's got no leashes. He whenever he's on the when he's in his little pod, and the one captain comes up and you see the scar in their head, you're like, what the hell happened there? So it's not, he's just not wearing this armor because it looks cool. He needs this to survive. And then he's talking to his admiral, and he's like, you have failed me for the last time. And and then he promotes another captain to become. But what I love about Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back, he's hunting for Luke Skywalker because of who he is. He knows he's his son, but he's going throughout. He is doing things in this movie, going after the Millennium Falcon, going after Luke Skywalker's friends, because if he can make them suffer, Luke Skywalker is going to have visions. So he's going to have to come to him. And in that fight scene, with which I still go to this day, it may not look like the best lightsaber fight in Star Wars, but it is the best lightsaber because it is more emotional. There's actual thing. There's not just people dancing. It's just it's people. It's him. Darth Vader has hit Luke so overwhelmed with his emotions, and then he cuts his hand off and he says, "You are beaten. Don't make me destroy you." And it's just, Vader is just such a cool villain. And then when you realize that Darth Vader is just a tool in Return of the Jedi to Palpatine, who I couldn't make in my list just because I didn't want more than one Star Wars villain in my list. For Palpatine would definitely have made my top 10 movie villains, but I do want to, but I think Darth Vader's villainy in Empire Strikes Back is better than any other villain than Palpatine throughout the Star Wars, because I gotta take out like the Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine. I don't want to talk about that ever again. But I love what they did with Palpatine in the prequels, how he manipulates Anakin to become Darth Vader, which you see a lot of that in the Clone Wars. Darth Vader easily number one. It was like, okay, I know what number one, I know what number two is. Now what's the rest of the list? So that was where the list came down to.
Yeah, that was my top three. I was like, all right, Vader, Thanos, Joker. Now what else?
All right, let's compile this list. So obviously Darth Vader at number one. Okay, so I had Joker at 2, you had it at 3.
Yeah, we should just keep Joker at 2 and put Thanos at 3. I'm not 100% sure why I had him like that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Probably, if I was gonna redo it, I'd probably do it the other way, to be honest with you. They're both so good though, Joker and Thanos.
Okay, so I had Gollum at 4. You had it at 9.
Yeah.
And then you had Amy Dunn at 4, and I had it at 8. So we'll just put Amy Dunn at 4, and then we'll put Gollum at 5.
Okay.
Okay, so I had Hans Gruber at 6. You had it at 7. So I say we just say 6.
Sounds good.
And that concludes our commonalities.
Nice. My next highest is 5, which I guess would be yours too, right?
Yeah, my next is Hans Landa from Inglourious Basterds. What was your number?
T-1000, Robert Patrick.
Let's go Hans Landa at 7. And then we go the T-1000 from Terminator 2. Okay, so my only movie left would be John Doe from 7. What's your next highest?
Scar. I have it at 6.
Okay, so we'll go Scar at 9. And then we'll go John Doe at 10.
Sounds good. It's a good list.
All right, let's announce this list to the Easy Cage fans. The top 10 movie villains of all time. Yeah. At number 10, John Doe from 7. At number 9, Scar from The Lion King. At number 8, the T-1000 from Terminator 2, Judgment Day. At number 7, Hans Landa from Inglourious Bastards. At number 6, Hans Gruber from Die Hard. At number 5, Gollum from the Lord of the Rings franchise. At number 4, Amy Dunn from Gone Girl. At number 3, Thanos from Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. And number 2, Joker from The Dark Knight. And the number 1 movie villain of all time is Darth Vader from the Star Wars franchise. Da, 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 da.
Still your opening for your videos.
That's right. Yeah, it's a good opening. All right, honorable mentions.
Oh yeah, I had a bunch. I had Agent Smith from the Matrix trilogy.
Yeah, for me that was. I didn't even put that down just because he's following a program and kind of like the T-1000, and I have better ones on that I could have put in that spot.
I had Cruella de Vil from the animated 101 Dalmatians. Not although you get why she becomes the villain she is.
Yeah.
And Pennywise from It.
Yeah, I had that.
Ed Palpatine from Star Wars, like we talked about. Chucky from Child's Play. When I was a kid, he was pretty scary villain. Doll comes to life, tries to kill you. I had Detective Alonzo Harris from Training Day. Denzel. I think Denzel needs to be a villain again. Like when I was doing this list, I was like, oh, yeah, he's such a good villain in that movie. I don't think we've ever seen it since. Maybe there's something I might be missing, but he's a good villain in that one. Tyler Durden from Fight Club.
I don't view him as the villain as much. I know he is the villain, but yeah. it's a little twisted. So
yeah, definitely twisted. The Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. You know, she's pretty villainous. I had the original Terminator from Arnold Schwarzenegger, like I talked about earlier. He's villain in the first movie, but then after that, he's not really a villain anymore. And then I put the shark from Jaws in here. That's a good villain.
That was on mine too. So my honorable mentions are: I have Biff from Back to the Future series.
Of course.
I have Kaiser Sose from The Usual Suspects. I also had Pennywise. Do what? Yeah, you should watch it.
I bought that movie this weekend. Haven't watched it yet.
So I have Pennywise from It. Norman Bates from Psycho. I have Jaws from Jaws. I have Magneto from the X-Men series. Nice, I really love him, and he would be very high when we do, when we do comic book movie villains. Oh. And then I also have Michael Corleone from the Godfather series. Just such a cool villain because he's not a hero one bit. I also had the T-1000. And then the one that was on my list but I cut it at the last second was King Edward from Braveheart. Because, his whole plan is for, if we can't beat them, if we can't subdue them, we'll breed them out. Causes a whole drama by forcing William Wallace to be secretly married, which causes the whole Scottish rebellion. So in that sense, he's not a good villain because he kind of creates his own problems, but he's such an intimidating villain. And he will not negotiate one sense or the other, throws guys off buildings because he is making his son weak. I mean, terrible person, great villain.
Yep.
All right, guys, that ends another episode of the Easy K Show. Next week, we will be talking about the second season of Ted Lasso. Believe it. Believe. So yeah, it was a great season. I'm looking forward to talking about it with Rennie Cage. A show that I told Rennie Cage he should watch, and he watched it. So I'm looking forward to talking about Ted Lasso next week with Rennie Cage. Also, you can check out Rennie Cage's Letterboxd. He's been posting, I think, a couple movie reviews every so often. So yeah, check that out. Check out that if you want to read. And also check out my YouTube channel. I have a bunch of movie reviews. Well, mostly just one movie review and a bunch of TV reviews coming out this week. I got reviews of Ted Lasso coming out, some other shows. So the season finale of What If, I'll have a season review of What If, which we'll probably talk about on this show in a couple weeks. That show in a couple weeks. So homework already, Cage. Homework. So guys. And also, guys, check us out here every week on the Darth Easy YouTube channel for the newest episode of the Easy Cage Show. And guys, until next week, all too easy.